Hello, everyone. My name is Shamika, aka Paging Allyne, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with a Naturopathic Medical Student. Now, we're going to remix this episode a little bit because we need to have a conversation about the medical schools themselves. And what better way to do that than to actually have a conversation with someone who's a current student at that school, and besides me, of course, so that you can get kind of like a real world, real time experience. So, the person that I have been delighted and blessed to have a conversation with is Morgan. Now, I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I just want to say she just finished, completed her first quarter of naturopathic medical school. And I have to give you your flowers for that because that is not an easy feat at all. So, we're just going to have a conversation with her. She's going to answer some questions, give her own personal feedback, and we'll see how this goes. So, Morgan, the floor is yours. Let the world know who you are.
Hey, thank you. I'm Morgan. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia, psych major. Yeah, I'm moving out to Arizona next week, so that's pretty scary to, really go headfirst into this journey. So,
Here's the thing. Now, you just completed your first quarter of naturopathic medical school. So, what does that feel like now that you have completed that small stepping stone, but major stepping stone all at the same time?
yeah, it's definitely like I can't believe that was the first one and there's 15 total. Like okay, we're just getting started and that was a lot. But it was great. Um, I really learned so much more than I ever thought my brain was possible of even comprehending. And the school really pushed and challenged me to do that. All the professors, and it was worth it 100 times over for sure.
Okay. See, I'm glad to hear that because usually by the time I finish the first quarter, I'm like, I've got 15 more of these to go, and I just barely made it to the first one. So I'm happy to hear that. Now let's rewind. Let's say 3 months. I think a quarter is like 3 4 months. Don't count my math. They don't get me on my math. So, what was it like when you were looking for? You looked at all these schools. What was kind of your thought process in kind of making that decision to even attend SCNM? Oh, by the way, world, she attends Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, same school I go to. Okay.
Um, yeah, I actually knew nothing about naturopathic medicine until probably 6 months before I started school. I'm again from Georgia in the South. There are no naturopathic schools. All I heard about was grad school or med school, for anything that has to do with furthering education. So I started looking into them. Thankfully, I worked with a psychologist who did natural medicine, and then I shadowed actually some naturopathic doctors in this area, which I didn't even know existed in Georgia. um, and I started looking into schools. I looked into the steer, and then when I was looking in SCNM, honestly, there was just something about the values, something about the just everything I got from them was so positive. Dealing with admissions, they were always like on point and super helpful. And it just felt like me and who I aspire to be like, honestly, is just the positivity that was flowing from the school. So that really solidified my choice.
Oh, wow. See, that's good to hear because usually it's always interesting to see what draws a person to a school. Sometimes it's proximity, but I mean, you're in Georgia. I mean, you could go in different directions, but there's no school that's right there in your backyard. So that's kind of interesting that you had that pull. Same thing for me. I kind of had this pull to SCNM, and I was like, you know what? This is it. Like, I don't have anything else. So, did you apply to any other schools?
I did not. SCNM through and through. I was like, I have no fallback, no backup, so they better accept me, honestly.
Same, same. I didn't apply to any other school. I just applied to one school and I said, listen, I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket. My mother was against it, but I was like, this is
Yeah.
it. I'm not doing anything else. So now that you're at the school, like, what has been, so you say that. you kind of had this feeling and this draw and this pull toward the school. So when you were going through that application process, what was that like for you?
Applying to SCNM was at first just felt like a fantasy. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, okay, like I've been out of school now for I think it was a little over a year since I
Hmm.
finished my undergrad, and I just knew I needed to do something. So I started applying to SCNM, and I was like, I don't really know what's going to happen here, but we'll see. But as soon as I put in the first initial, oh, I'm kind of interested email, I heard back from someone like within that week, and they really like propelled me forward into it. And it was super helpful. The interview process was great. Like everything just kind of flowed. There were no hiccups at all, which is really nice when you're going into a post undergrad because they can be rough out there, honestly. And
Yes.
SCNM was very encouraging, very accepting. It was a great experience.
So, okay, this is positive to hear. Now, were you nervous?
I don't think I was nervous until I was interviewing. The moment I was interviewing, I genuinely, actually during my interview, I was talking to them, and then I suddenly was just like, I completely forgot my entire thought, and I'm so sorry. It was just an overflow of anxiety. I had nothing to say to them. Yeah, so that was when all the nervousness I think came crashing
Okay. All right. See, I had to check it
in.
because I know for me, I think I was a little nervous, but then I was like, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. Like if this doesn't work, then at least at least I gave it my all and you know that it was me when you heard me talk. So that was kind of like my thought process with it. Do you feel that your prerequisites, so before you were going, like you're going through the application process, you're looking at your prerequisites and the courses that you need, did you have to do any additional work before you applied to make sure you had all the prereqs? Because you said you were psychology, right?
Yes, but I was actually pre-med as
Oh.
a minor, so thank God for that because I probably would have had a lot of catching up to do. Yeah, because I really thought I was going to go traditional medicine route,
Hmm.
but something about that just didn't really sit with me, especially being a psych major. Like I'm almost like a humanistic psych where I believe in people's abilities. So thinking of going to med school and then for every issue I felt like I'd be prescribing medication. It just didn't seem I knew it's what I needed to do in order to have a what I felt was a bigger impact, but it just wasn't feeling quite right that was the only solution I would learn, which is how I ended up in naturopathic school.
Oh, see, I'm happy of how it worked out for you, and it's good that you did the pre med because that was the same thing for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I may not have everything I need. But luckily, luckily it worked out. So, did you feel that being psych and pre med, and you were going to go the allopathic route?
Mhm.
What was kind of the thing that kind of propelled you to say, okay, hey, this is not like what you said earlier, that you don't want to just be prescribing medication and things like that. So, what was there a turning point for you to say, hey, I want to do something different, especially for you to happen upon naturopathic medicine?
I think that I just was kind of in tune with myself during that time, honestly. And I felt like there was a reason because I love school, like I loved learning. And the fact that I was off for a year and a half, I was like, okay, Morgan, like you know what route you can take and something's stopping you. And I just tried to slow down enough to really listen to that. Um, yeah, and I'm grateful that I found out, like I found a different route
Hmm.
in doing that.
Well, see, that's good. See, I always love hearing about people's journeys and like how they got to where they are because sometimes it's like a big mistake, or sometimes it just, you just fall into it. Um, so now that you've on this journey, you're in school, you passed your first quarter, what is it that you feel that, or you wish you knew before it started? before you even started your first quarter? Because now you can look at your past self and say, wow, okay, what do I wish I knew before I even started at this school or even medical school in general?
Yeah, I think with naturopathic school, because it's so positive and everyone's so helpful, and you kind of feel like, oh, this will be like a coasting journey. Absolutely not. Like it's nothing like that at all. Don't get me wrong, people are great. Like the professors really want you to succeed, but this is genuine, like hard work, dedication. You need to be. I remember the first week in every class, they had the assignment of we had to write on like the discussion boards of, is this really for you, are you sure you're dedicated, like are you, and I was sitting here anxiety like, oh my god, I don't know. Like you're really making me question every life decision. But that was honestly, I'm glad that they did that, because again, it made me really stop and think. And I mean, I know, we had that conversation until 3 a.m. and I think about it all the time. But I still to this day have doubts, especially with this move coming up. I'm very much like, Jesus Christ, do I want to move this far away from like my friends, my family? Like I could stay in Georgia, there's schools here, there's always something that like I could do differently. But sometimes I think because it's this uncomfortable is why I really should do it. Which is terrifying. So really everything with starting this has been terrifying and pushing your boundaries. Um, so I definitely think don't go in thinking like, oh, it's natural and it's about self-care and healing, that's all that you get out of it, because you get like the nitty gritty, even in Q1, like the nitty gritty dirt of it before, you really learn to flourish. But that's what coming into your power, I think, is like. So
No, I agree. I agree. I agree. It is stressful. And I feel that, when you're in the application process, you kind of feel like, well, anything's possible. And this is, yeah, you're nervous, but the environment kind of dictates like, okay, yeah, you can be here, you can live here, you can do well here. And it's kind of like this big hug, and we sit in a circle, but it's kind of like when you really get into class, you're like, no, you're not hugging me. That was not real. And you're not that nice. Like you start to kind of see these different sides to it. And I think that's just normal in the environment. But I always want to hear people's kind of what did you expect versus what you got
yeah,
type deal.
it's definitely
So
different.
so now that's kind of what you wish you knew. But now that you've gone through a first quarter, kind of where are you now when you talk about your Morgan before quarter one and Morgan now? Like, what are some traits that you see in yourself, or how do you feel that you're different?
I think that medical school really makes you start paying attention to things that I think that I'm, kind of am very go with the flow, and like, I live in the city, I like the city life, and I think that it's kind of weird to say, but before I was just kind of coasting through things, and like things were happening and it was good and it was, a vibe. Since medical school, I think I'm paying attention to detail. I'm like focusing on the little things. I'm actually like, okay, well, when something happens, it runs in my mind more. So I think it started to challenge the way I started to view, honestly, just everyday situations. And it started to make me also really care about connections even more. I think, I don't know if it's just because of the move, the transition, I don't know what it is, but I feel like when you're starting to go through something really hard, you start to think about who's really there for you. And I know in one of the classes, we had a lecture on self care, and they were like, anytime you're going through a transition, you're going to lose people, you're going to gain people. And that's not necessarily good or bad. It might feel one way, but it's not actually good or bad, but you just have to kind of roll with that and make sure that you're giving time to those who matter. And I probably would not have slowed down enough to really think about that, like at 24, without having school really challenge my mind in the way it has.
Okay, now see that I love that because you're kind of taking the environment that you're in. Yeah, I always say that med school is kind of like, well, I have a bunch of analogies from med school. Um, but kind of like a dark cave, and you kind of know that you have to go through it because there's light at the end of the tunnel, but you've got to put up with a lot of little monsters that come out the corner to try to get through it. And some of that is well, let's say 60% of that is just you and your own self-doubt and your own questioning whether, wow, is this worth it? Now, here's a question. How many times did you say, or along these lines, what have I done? Or did I make a mistake? Like you question whether this was all, how many times? Because I could tell you my number, but I mean, how many times?
We had classes for 11 weeks times seven, well, 5 days out the week, 7 days,
Uh-huh.
77, and then put that by like probably 2 or 3 times every day. Like it was a lot of like just overwhelming uncertainty.
Uh-huh.
Like I think, and every time it happened, I thought about what you said. It won't go away. I'll always have that back door. I'll always have that safety net.
Mhm.
And every day you really have to choose and decide, like, is this what I'm going to do? Um, yeah. And, oh, what's your number? I'm like,
My number, oh my gosh. Okay, I will give you this. I say the first week I was good. Like I was like, oh, anything is possible because I was no, it wasn't orientation. It's like your first official week of
mhm,
class. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I know what this monster is. I can handle you. Then I got into the second week and I was like, this is the biggest mistake, but I can't leave because I moved here. All of
yep,
my junk is here. I set up my little apartment so I could be there forever. So I was like, wow. So yes, you're gonna be pessimistic this entire time. And what I got into quarter four, and I was like, you know what? I've got to change. I've gone a whole year with like, what have I done? This is so stupid. And so I was like, who signs up for this? Who signs up to be in a constant state of stress for no reason and then have to deal with your own mental stability
yes.
7 days out a week? And then, so I was like, who in the world signs up for this? And it's like, it's not advertised anywhere. It's not advertised that, hey, listen, when you get into med school, yes, you'll be able to save lives, but you can save yours first. Like, that's
Exactly.
not, like, it's not written anywhere. And I was like, this needs to be somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like it, it's really, and I think that's the challenge, and that's like the perk of medicine is like you really do have to be okay first before you go out there, because otherwise medical school is supposed to be an amazing journey. It does not start out amazing, like because it's unlike natural life. It's unlike how things just ritually go. It's a huge adjustment, like a major adjustment.
I completely agree. I completely agree. If you hear some background noise, that may be my dogs. Do you hear them?
Yeah.
You do? Oh my gosh, they're so rude. So rude. I told them I was having a conversation.
Too. Like,
That's it. See, they're trying to give their 2 cents too because they know we're talking about stressful situations and they want you to know, hey, listen, she is right. I have seen her. I've had to cope with her too, emotional support animal. Do you know how much work I've had to do for this emotional wreck you see here? But see, that's I appreciate that. And I appreciate the honesty because it's not every day. Usually, when you hear from a student, you usually hear them after the fact of
mhm,
where, they've graduated and they've, a few months later, a few years later, and they're like, well, the things they tell you are kind of superficial. Like,
exactly.
oh, you're smart, you'll get through it. No, that's not how this works. That's not how it works at
Mhm.
all. Um, so do you feel what has been the hardest thing for you to deal with as of now? when you look at your past your first quarter. And I'm going to keep saying that so it sinks in for you and for me too, because that is such, it is let's pause for a second. Well, I'm not pausing, but I'm like, for emotional effect. That is a huge accomplishment to have completed your first quarter and to have made it this far, because that's not something that sometimes people forget. That people forget that it's one exam at a time, one day at a time, one assignment at a time, and you kind of get caught up in the fact of the whole nostalgia of being a medical student versus the idea that you're going to have to work your behind off to not just get in but to stay in, and the mental capacity you have to hold that for three 4 months. And the idea that you are able to do that, that says a lot about you and what you have accomplished. So that's why I'm going to continue to say it, because it's people forget that you have to make it through the first one in order to do anything else. And all throughout your medical school career, you're going to have these little milestones that sometimes you forget that they're actually huge, big deals. So yeah, I'm going to continue to tell you that because it takes a lot of mental fortitude to stay in it for that long and to not lose your mind. Not to say that I didn't lose mine, but I kept it together for at least a year before I lost mine. So the fact that you did that, and you had to deal with your school, your class was all online. So you had to go through online medical school on top of the fact that you now have to deal with your own mental capacity to kind of get through school. So yes, I'm going to say it about 50 times. in this,
I appreciate. Yeah,
in this. So I
it's
mean, what was the hardest thing for you thus far?
honestly, it probably was exactly what you said. It being online, the mental strain that I think it takes naturally to go through it, in the way that it's supposed to. But then when you're online, you're by yourself. And it made my life significantly slow down. Like, I stopped seeing as many people. I was just in my house, like alone. And it was really tough. So, the material isn't bad. Like, the material isn't rough. It's interesting. It's cool. I mean, it's about life. There's nothing. It's valuable information. But it's so every lecture is 2 hours. Like, so it's 2 hours of staring at this screen and listening to this professor, and nothing is hands on. There's no looking over at your friend. Like, Jesus, this class is so. There's no camaraderie. It's just everybody's camera goes off. Like, in class, you're just really sitting here like really having to push yourself and power through and say, like, if this is important, pay attention. And there were definitely days that I was in class and I was starving. I was like, I'll just cook, during class. There were days that I would be like, oh, let me just go for a walk, like, while I listen. And I think the hardest part was definitely not having the camaraderie uh, with it being online. It made it a very isolated quarter. Um, that was definitely the hardest part.
See, I mean, I didn't have my first quarter. It was not online. It was in person. But the same things that you're saying, I could tell you that I went through. Like when you talk about the hardest part,
Mhm.
um, because even though you're beside someone or you have somebody sitting to the left and right of you kind of are still feeling those same emotions. It's just that now you're feeding off the energy of someone beside you. So if both of y'all are stressed, well, I'm feeling their stress at the same time. And then if the whole room gets stressed out, then it's like, well, I need to leave.
Mhm.
Um, so, I mean, yeah, so you do have that kind of like those same feelings that do happen. Um, but do you feel that you would have those same, eventually you're going to be in the in-person setting. I think next quarter we're going to in-person labs and stuff like that. Do you feel that those same emotions would still be there, or do you feel that you've kind of upgraded yourself in a way?
I'd love to say I upgraded. um, do I think that I'm there yet? No. It
Okay.
probably will feel the same. Fortunately, I am very close to one of the girls that's in my cohort, so we're going to be roommates, and I have someone who's going through it with me. Um, also with it being online, we had a lot of time to almost kind of meet each other without being face to face. So a lot of like online talking to. There's definitely people that I feel close to, which I think will be nice because nobody really understands what I'm doing. I remember I was talking to my friend today and I was telling her about all my class. She's like, "Oh, girl, you're in med school, like for real." And I said, "Yes." Like, did you think I'm joking when I say I'm over here dying? Like, I'm very serious. um, yeah, but it'll be nice for people who understand what it feels like. But I still think that it it's a lonely journey only in the sense of only you can make your mental adjust for it, and that I think will take time.
See, I agree with that. I mean, but on another note, how do you feel that people around you are adjusting to you now? When you say, "Hey, I'm a medical student," do you feel a difference in their reaction?
Yes.
Okay.
So, it's like two ends really. So some people think I'm like the expert now. You like I have all the answers and I am going to fix every little thing. And I'm sitting here like, I mean, I can't even really tell you what I've learned like that well. Like I've learned it, but like I don't know how to apply this to real life yet. And there's the other end that's like, girl, you can still go out and have fun and do it. And I'm just like, what? Like, I don't know where you see the time. Please make my schedule for me. Like that would help a lot. Um, yeah, so it's definitely two ends. And I feel grateful because I have amazing, phenomenal people in my life. I don't think I could have done this honestly if I had anything different. Like the amount of gratitude that comes out of going through something this hard for the people that are around you is unprecedented for me, honestly. My family is, I just could never rant and rave enough about them. And my friends are just the most genuine, amazing, brilliant people that I have in this world, which makes it harder to leave and I might start crying. But like, I know Arizona will also have, all that as well. But yeah, I definitely it's funny the reactions that you get from people about are you legitimate or are you not? And I'm like, I'm still questioning that myself. So when I have the answer, I will definitely let you know.
See, that's good to hear too because it's definitely that's so good that you have that support. Because it definitely changes things. It changes how you even view yourself and how you view the work. And you kind of get this feeling like, well, it's not just me doing this. I'm not just doing it for myself. Because you kind of have this feeling like, well, I want to pay those people back for that support, whether it's just monetary or whether it's just emotional support. I want to be able to pay them back some way, somehow. So that's good. I mean, that will definitely get you through a lot of tough times because I mean, if you thought it was hot now, you got quarter three.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear it.
But I will say this. I will say this. If you could get through quarter one, you could get through each quarter. Each quarter is going to have, it's going to feel like it's something new each time. So at the end of the first quarter, you feel like, well, I've got this. I could do it. Bring on quarter two. And then quarter two comes, and then they put something else in the mix. It's like, I didn't ask for that ingredient.
Right.
I know how to bake this cake, but you are adding some foreign ingredients that do not go in a cake, but you still got to bake the cake. So, so that is it's good to hear that you have that foundation because that is going to be something that is going to just carry you through some tough times. Not to say that what you've gone through is not tough. I'm just saying that it will get tougher. I'd rather you know now than find out, be surprised later. I mean, so you've gone through all of this. You're moving, you're starting in fresh. By the way, it is hot as I don't know what in Arizona. Okay, I don't know what. Don't trust Siri or whatever weather app is telling you. It is hot, and Siri doesn't tell you how it feels.
Yeah,
Okay,
I heard that like literally you could take off all your clothes and just be sitting in your living room with like the AC all the way down, air blasting, you still can't do anything. It's just too hot. Like
exactly, exactly, and you get tired.
yeah.
The weather just makes you tired. Um, and then if you have to go outside, covered parking, covered parking.
Okay.
Wherever you're moving, make sure you have covered parking. Um, but no, but I mean, I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy that you've made it this far, and that you didn't break down or lose your mind.
Are you
You
sure?
know.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Like, no, I mean, you could easily lose it, like, and you would know. I know. I think I lost mine. I said this earlier, quarter four, where I had to, like, you spend a lot of time trying to manage everything, and then you're like, okay, I've managed everything but myself. So then you really have to check yourself. And so that's it's a normal process and things like that. But I mean, now that you're a medical student and you know that you have, I know for me, family would always ask me questions now, like I can help them. Not to say that I don't want to. It's just that I don't even remember half the stuff I do in class. You know? Like I get it. I passed that class,
Mhm.
but give me a second.
Right.
Have you experienced that?
Oh, for
Mhm.
sure. It's like every little fact that I have memorized, I try to throw at people like, oh yeah, rods and cones. Like, let me tell you about them. I know now. But then they'll be like, okay, well, tell me about this pinched nerve that I have. And I'm just like,
I
see,
didn't learn that yet.
right. Like, give me a little bit of time. Or even they pull up like articles and stuff. They're like, okay, interpret this. And I'm just like,
I didn't get to that yet. You gotta give me a second.
right. I'm
Like,
try my best, but I will lead you wrong because I'm just not there, you know. Yeah.
oh man, that is so true. So true. I mean, do you feel different now that you say that you're a medical student? Like when you tell people, because it's different when you're telling people, "Oh, I'm going to be a medical student" before you get in, and then
Mhm.
when you get in, you say, "Oh no, I'm a medical student." Do you feel that there's a difference now?
I actually don't. I feel like more so people's response gets me to realize it than me actually saying it. Maybe it's just because I'm still like in Atlanta, Georgia, and like, the hours are different and it just feels like something I'm kind of doing, but like I'm not sure yet. So I don't yet, but I'm excited for when I do.
See, okay, good. I stopped telling people.
Really?
Well, because so at one point I did stop telling people because it's kind of like then you'd have to go down the road of explaining what type of medical student you are. And I'm not ashamed to talk about it, but it's kind of like everybody, all they know is allopathic medical student. And sometimes people are not willing to learn about another type of medical student. So it could become kind of, it's like, oh, do I want to be on the soapbox today? Am I feeling like it? But now I'm like, listen, I'm a naturopathic medical student, and I will go down my whole speech to say
Yeah.
this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is what we focus on, and you kind of wane in and out. I've been a professional student for a very long time, so you kind of, and I was allopathic before I even became naturopathic, so you kind of see things a little differently. Um, but I like where I am. Now, here's a question. Do you wish that you did anything prior to, because I know we talked about this a little early on, but now that you've been through it, do you feel that something that you should have done before starting? Or maybe you wish you did as you were going through your coursework to say, oh, okay, maybe I should have done this, or I wish I should have done this before I even got here.
Mhm. Um, I feel like nothing can truly prepare you for what it is, but um, I do wish that I looked ahead. As much as you can get ahead, I would really recommend. And I know that sounds like, oh my God, I want my freedom, or I want like the last little, um, which it's totally feasible. You can totally like have all your freedom up until, and then just dive in. But it's a lot more comfortable, I think, if you actually at least know the topic before you're going to class. Like, I definitely made that mistake sometimes of, well, we definitely did talk about previewing before, but I never realized how much detail was really going to be put into things. So if you just go through the slides, it just seems like, oh, it's just a picture. You'll spend 45 minutes on that picture. Like that picture actually has a lot of things. And it's so funny because every time anything that had to do with psych was brought up, so anything about the brain or neurons, I was like, oh, this is my field. I got this. Girl, no. Um, what I thought I knew and I was an expert on, I am not. So
Same, same. You're speaking. Snaps for
yeah.
you. Snaps for you.
Um, but as I think that that would be my biggest recommendation, and also utilize your professors. Like they could seem scary, intimidating. Like they know their I almost cussed, but they know their stuff. Like they really are just the most. I honestly sometimes just look at like Elta Johnny or Smith, and I'm just sitting here like, wow. Like I hope and I wish one day I just any question someone asks them, they got you. Like you cannot catch them off guard. And I just feel like it's a whole inspiration. So definitely utilize them. They can seem intimidating, but they just want you to succeed. I don't think that I've ever really seen or experienced, at least like across the board, professors that actually cared about you knowing it and doing well. Um, El Tajani was super huge about like come to my office hours, like come and talk. And I definitely went. I had great conversation with him. He might seem intimidating in class, to some, but he is just literally such a nice guy. And Smith, I feel like he wants you to debate with him. I'm not gonna lie, like, and he's so validating. He's very much like, oh yeah, like I could see why you would say that, but I like this more, And I'm just like, well, at least you made me feel good, like I'm not an idiot. So definitely preview, um, dive into the topic, explore it, go crazy, go off, and use your professors for sure.
Okay, see, and that's good advice. Because I know for me, when I started and like when I got past quarter one, I was always doing my whole lessons learned from that quarter, from the previous quarter. And I'm glad you said preview because I could never get with previewing.
Really.
I I tried. I tried. And as a mentor, I tell people, hey, try it. If you like it, go for it. Um, I, on the other hand, did not have that level of success with previewing. Maybe I was impatient. Maybe. But if you got it, keep it. Let it work for you. Um, it just really never worked for me. I'd
Yeah.
probably be less stressed if I previewed. But anyway, that's for another therapy session.
Go into
Um,
class and just
what?
like, all right, let's this is
Oh,
what we're doing today.
okay. So yeah, since we're being honest in this little conversation here, so I would go to class and I just show up. I know. See, now I think I did preview for the first 2 weeks
Okay.
of my first quarter. I did the first 2 weeks. I did previewing, and then after that, I know when people look at me, they're like, "Oh, she's probably the model student. She studies all the time." No,
Got it.
I'm not that person. Um, I did it for the first 2 weeks. So I previewed for the first 2 weeks. It was hella stressful because I just couldn't. I was trying to juggle having to sit in classes
Mhm.
and be present in classes and prepare for these classes. And each class you had something, you probably had something due or you had to read new material. I'm like, hold up, something's gonna have to go. And so I chose previewing. And sometimes I would just show up to class and maybe if it's like a few minutes before class, I would see a video of some sort just to kind of have an idea of, okay, so I know a little bit of what you're talking about. But yeah, that was me. Um, Honestly speaking, that's still me. Uh,
I mean, power to you though for being able to do that. Honestly, like you have got to have an mind, girl, because like I, yeah, I would be so lost. There's so many words that I've just never heard of, and you only get it for one day. And I think that's probably the thing that blows me sometimes is you just told me this word on Monday, and you expect me to be able to learn new things and be
yes,
quizzed on the word
yes,
like I've used it for 20 years. And
yes.
that was yeah, I couldn't do it. Like
So no, I mean, listen, listen. I am not encouraging people. Don't do what I do. Do as I say, not as
right.
I do. Okay. Um, because it does add some stress to
Yeah.
your life. Um, but I think as you continue on, you kind of get a routine that works for you, um, and a process that works for you. So even though I may not preview, I'm probably doing things. I'm probably like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm usually doing things after the class because sometimes for me, I find that classes, sometimes I don't get what I need out of the class. Like
Mhm.
I'll sit there for 40 minutes. I'm like, whew, I could have probably gotten breakfast before I rushed to this class. It's like different things like go through my mind. And but usually I find that after the class, where I'm able to, when I'm sitting in class, I'm processing, okay, this is how my notes need to look, or I'm like writing in the lecture to say, okay, well, this is important, this is a note. So my whole goal is making my notes, uh, so that I can study them because at the end of the day, I feel like that's 70% of medical school is you making notes to be able to study them. Um,
I kind of have
but
a question. Like,
yes.
so was
Oh,
that
finally, a question. Girl, go ahead. Go ahead.
was that what you did while you were in person, and did it change online, or did your same methods like work for either or?
Good question. That it stayed the same.
Wow.
Because when you're and now bear in mind it may just be my study style. I am a very visual learner, but I also can kind of quickly figure out, okay, this is how I need something to look in order for me to memorize it or for me to understand it. um, so when I went online, it actually, for me, I found it better because you can be in class at the same time as working on your notes. Whereas when you're physically in class, you couldn't do those things. You had to sit there. Uh, I have classmates that they'll go for a walk while they're listening to class. You can't do that. You're literally sitting there. What, class is 2 hours? And you're sitting there for 2 hours. Listen, you probably got me for a good 45 minutes. I have been able to stretch my brain for 45 minutes. After that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am not only did I check out, I left. So there's a difference. Checking out, you're still there. When you leave, like you physically leave. But I didn't find a change because I just kept the same. Once you figure out and that's the thing in school, once you figure out your process, you're going to work that process no matter what class you're in. So once you figure out, okay, this is how I want to do something, that's what you're going to continue to do.
Mhm. Well, I can't wait till I figure it out. No, but I definitely agree with you. It's the 2-hour class was so I think that when got my schedule and I saw it and I was like, okay, like I have anatomy for 2 hours, then immediately after I'll have physiology. And there's only 10-minute break in between and I have physiology and this day will just run itself. Girl, it's like I'll be in anatomy and I think that I recommend too, like if you need to pay attention in class, have your camera on. It does hold you accountable. It sucks because you're at home, you're in pajamas, hair up in a bun, like, just rolling out of bed basically. Um, but anatomy, I started having my camera on because I'm gonna be real honest. I was failing anatomy. Like the first 4 weeks of anatomy, I had a 66, and no matter what I did, everything I got a 60 on, or if I wanted to bump it up a little bit, I might get a 70. Like, woo, um, and it really took me, number one, going to El Tijani and talking with him, the tips that he gave me of how to succeed, him actually seeing me in class, I feel like really helped me because when it was online, it just didn't seem real. The professors didn't seem real. It didn't seem like I really had to. Of course, I have to listen to them, but do I really hear this person on this screen that I don't know? Um, so actually having the camera on and building that connection helped a lot. And that is genuinely the only reason I passed this class. I really think is I had that camera on. I was actively taking notes. Like, yeah, I think that I'm so much more prepared for his class now, thankfully. I'm gonna pray and wish it to the universe. But yeah, for sure. I think that having your camera on, that accountability, because otherwise, I mean, even with it, you only get 45 minutes. I'm not gonna cap, but like, at least it's a good 45 minutes, instead of a half-hearted 45 minutes, because you're going to check out at 45 minutes regardless.
See? Okay, so it's not just me. Um, yeah, no, that's actually good advice. I'm glad you said it because I I try not to have my camera on. So that's good that you're advising people to turn their camera on. I'm glad we talked to you because nobody would have ever heard that from me. Uh, that's just me being 100% real. Um, but I mean, that on that note, like, what is your advice for new students? Because they're going to see this and they're going to think about, okay, listen, I'm thinking about going to SCNM. You told us about what was your draw to it, and really it was it's like a magnetic connection. Um, but what is your advice for? So this is two parts.
Mhm.
What is your advice for students looking to apply to the school you're going to, the school that you attend? So we'll start with that one.
I think that you should really look into SCNM values because what they have posted from what I've seen in Q1 is really what they stick and try to stand by. And if you personally identify with that, you'll fit in great. Like this will be a good match for you. So, um, and then something that I didn't do that I highly recommend, please look at the curriculum, look at what classes you'll be taking, because I did not do that. And sis was surprised. Like I did not think it was, quite what it was. But definitely look into what classes are there. Look into, um, yeah, pretty much their values, what they stand for, but SCNM, I think it's a great school. Like I really do. Arizona seems dope. I've only visited a couple times, but it seems like a great place. The people there, all the students that I've met. I mean, you literally doing this with me now. Like, if I was at an allopathic school, I really don't know. They'd be like, "All right, I'm kind of busy," like
Yeah.
But people really do slow down to help you here, and that's really, I really, really appreciate the support that comes from the school for sure.
All right. See, I'm glad to hear that. That just makes me smile because it's kind of like you have an opportunity to use your lessons learned to now help someone else. So, what is your advice for students looking to go into or attend naturopathic medical school? Because it is different, but not that different. But what is your advice?
I think at the forefront, you have to take care of yourself. Like, please do not neglect that part. Like, set aside a self care once a week. And if it's a week that you don't need it, do it anyway, because you'll need that somewhere else along the lines. It's definitely intense, it's definitely nonstop. You are always on. Um, yeah, I think that you have to take care of yourself, be prepared. Um, but I always think about too, like when I was in orientation, the quote that they left us with was comparison is the thief of joy. So don't look to other people for this process. It is your own, it is what you make it to be. You know, there's some people who started on a 4-year track who are now on 5-year, you know, because that was better for them. There's people who didn't continue going because it didn't feel right for them. That's okay too. But I think my biggest advice is this is really intense. It's a really big step. It's, kudos to you for doing it, for going this way. And there is no shame. There's no like, you don't have to prove anything to anyone but yourself, and just hold on to that and say like, I have to choose this for myself. Like, other people can't be choosing it. I can't rely on people to convince me. Like, sit with yourself and make sure it's right for you. And when you have doubts, reach out to someone great like Shamika and she will help you. But overall, like, just do what's best for you every single time, every single day. And that you can never go wrong in that. That's my biggest advice. Listen to yourself.
Yes. Amen, 1000%. Like, go ahead, girl, selling it. No, that is
A little something.
no, that is just beautiful because that's what people need to hear. They need to hear the reality and they need to hear, listen, this is what it's like. There's this level of excitement when you're applying and you're excited about, you tell so many people that you're going to medical school and they kind of gas you up and then you kind of gas yourself too because it's kind of like, oh, I'm about to be a medical student. I am about to solve the every problem in the world. I am about to cure cancer. That is what I'm about to do. And then you get in it and you're like, whoa, I'm not curing nothing because this is not, because this is not what you signed up for. Nobody signs up for that. But the fact that you can kind of in retrospect say that a person needs to think of themselves too. I always say that in order to be selfless, you have to be selfish first because you can't help someone without helping yourself. And the fact that you're at that point where you can tell somebody that, hey, you need to take care of yourself, that is a beautiful thing because not a lot of people think about themselves first because we're kind of trained from a young age that you shouldn't be selfish. You got to share, you got to be nice. Um, you have to do all these positive things, and then being selfish is considered a negative thing. uh, and so as you mature, you're like, well, I can't be selfish because selfish means I don't share my toys. My mama don't like it when I'm selfish. But this idea of being selfish is one that's allowing for you to nurture yourself so that you can help other people. And so I think that's wonderful that you're at that point and that you can give that advice because I can tell you that's not something I learned in allopathic medical school. That's something that I learned after breaking down. That's something that I learned when, all of it hit the fan type deal. And you kind of have to deal with your emotions, so to speak, and try to navigate it. Um, so, girl, you are well on your way.
Thank you.
If you can mentally, and I'm serious, if you can mentally, I know I joke a lot, but if you can mentally, if you can mentally be there and confidently say it, then that shows how far you can go. And that shows how much effort you're willing to put into it, because you know that you have to put in effort with yourself first in order to just be sane for other people. So it's a beautiful thing. Oh my gosh. Girl, I am so, 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 so proud of you. Um, I want to thank you for doing this with me. Oh, but hold up, before I end this, let's talk a split second about mental health, okay? Because I feel like that's something that people don't talk about in medical school. We just say that we're stressed out, or we say that, especially when you fail. So this is going to be two part, because there's a mental health aspect when you fail,
Mhm.
okay? And sometimes people don't think about failure in medical school. You think about everything else, but you never think about how you deal with failure. So what is, and you mentioned that you were having that trouble in anatomy.
Mhm.
Don't feel bad. That's a normal thing.
Good.
Anatomy, biochemistry, and neuroanatomy. Oh my gosh, when you get to neuroanatomy, let me be positive. It'll be great.
Okay.
Okay. So
Like wink, wink. It'll be great.
it's the same professor.
Yeah.
So one of the things you will notice is that when you get to know a professor, they kind of don't change their MO. They don't change their stripes. They kind of, and you will know when they do, because they're like, "Oh, we don't know you like this." That happened to us in biochemistry. We're like, "Oh, what are
Really?
you doing here? These questions we're not prepared to answer these."
I
Yes.
think that in biochem. Maybe,
No, no,
maybe.
no, you're good. You're good. I think
Sorry.
that happens like in two or three, like quarter two or three. We're like, oh, what are these? What do you want us to do with these? How are we supposed to answer these? It was a test that came. I don't know. I don't know. I was like, Jesus, you're
Say,
gonna have to take this test for me, because
Jesus,
I
say,
don't know. I don't know. I don't know where these questions are coming from. I studied, but I didn't study this. So, but no. When it comes to failure, how do you handle failure? And
mhm.
especially now that you're a medical student, I feel like that failure, it hits a little different.
Real different.
I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like in undergrad, you're like, oh, okay, no problem, got another exam, no issue. But when you get it in professional school, you're like, whoa, it's like a cataclysmic shift type deal. So yeah, go ahead.
Especially, I think, because you're working hard. You know you're working hard. You know you're doing just anything you can think of. You're trying your best, and you go in, and even I'm not gonna lie, and this makes me feel awful because I'm like, I'll take a test and I'll feel comfortable. Like, sis ain't getting an A, but like I feel comfortable. I feel like, I remember him talking about this. I remember this, and you submit and you see that you failed, and you're just like, I don't understand where I could have went wrong. I definitely had a lot of crying. I definitely had a lot of not being okay because, and I would tell people this all the time. In 24 years of my life, I've been in school for however long. I've never failed collectively as much as I did in the first 11 weeks of medical school. It was just like every single day was a day of what felt like failure, in the beginning. And I think that there's really no way to make that feel great in the beginning. Like, you just kind of have to ride that. But I think that what I can say about med school is it's not, I know it seems like, oh, well, you're a medical student. You have to be type A on it, just one thing after the other. I think the beautiful thing that I'm learning about med school is it is about you growing in it. It's not about you being perfect. It's not about you having it figured out. That's why you're here. You're still a student. You're still trying to make it all come together. And you're going to have hiccups in that. And I tell you, every question that I missed, I would never miss it again. And the ones that I got right, I might miss those, because I'm like, oh yeah, I got that right. I don't need to look into that. But everything that I got wrong, I was like, what? I was so confident. I go and I look, and then I'm reading stuff about it. And so the failures might feel like really, really bad. but it pushes you that much more. So what seems like a failure one day, just know that the next day you're going to be pushed that much harder to go that much harder. And I think that you have to fail here. And I want to say don't take it personal or don't take it hard, but that's really impossible, because you want to do well. This is
Mhm.
for your career, this is for your life. And it's like if you fail a test, you're like, I'm going to be an awful doctor, I'm going to kill someone. Like, and that's just really not okay. Like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this if I can't actually do well in the world. Um, but one test, one quiz, one question, even one full class is not a reflection of your capabilities and the type of doctor you'll be. If this is what you want and you keep pushing through and going, that's what shows what type of doctor you will be. So failure is inevitable. It's going to be hard, but it's so cheesy and cliche to say, but your failures really do make you here. Like, you really, that's where you grow for sure, more than if you were just getting everything right all the time. That doesn't feel as good as when you fail and then you do like really, really good the next time. Yeah, for sure.
No, see. Oh, you just break my heart. I feel like a Care Bear right now. I could just like glow happiness right now. And even, on that, what you were talking about with failure, oh my gosh, when it happens, it just changes your whole perspective. And yes, you do have this kind of roller coaster of emotions where you kind of feel like, wow, I failed and I am going to be a horrible, horrible doctor if I can't even get the basics. But what I've learned, and it's in line with what you were saying, is that your failures have no, all they do is make sure that you know the information, and they kind of keep you in check because, let's say you go into medical school and you're doing well, and let's say you get to clinics and then you just mess it up royally. And you never experienced that before all throughout your career thus far. And it's having to feel it then would just knock you out the water. But to feel it earlier while you're in the basic sciences, you're like, okay, well, I can bounce back from this. I can figure out what I need to do and to fix it and, retrospect and things like that. But the failure is something that definitely happens. It doesn't go away, and it's anytime you think that it can't touch you, it actually touches you like really hard. Like it like comes up behind you and scares you type deal. And it provides this kind of shock factor that you know if you sit if you sit with her a little bit and you listen and stuff like that, y'all could have a great relationship. Wow, that's like horrible relationship advice. I'm just now thinking about what I said. That is horrible
I mean,
relationship advice.
example, like,
Yeah, but I mean, you would want to be genuine. Like if you're in a relationship, if you did what I just said, it would make you seem like you are just there for the wrong reasons. Like you're not being genuine. So don't do what I said in relationships. Just put that towards school. Um, but no, that's great because failure is something that it's not talked about a lot. And I always try to ask people about failure because they think it's something that it could never happen to you. Um, but no, even I failed. Even I had my hiccups and things like that when it came to certain classes. And sometimes you could fail so badly that it really makes you got to sit with it for a while and really figure out what it is that you're going to do next. Um, so on the same topic of mental health, what is what are you doing now for your mental health now that you are in medical school? You know that it's tough, you know that you're hit with things every single day. um how are you handling your mental health?
I think that it took me a couple of weeks, and a lot of conversations. Shamika, when I tell you, I went off the rails. Like I really did. Of course, I reached out to you multiple times. I reached out to other people who were actual naturopaths that were practicing. And I'm like, tell me legitimately, like, is this what I know your whole career is in it, but like, do you really think in hindsight it's worth it? I went to meetings with career services. I went to meetings with like Jill constantly. I was reaching out to anyone and everyone because I felt in a panic. My mental health was definitely getting away from me. But through, I think the biggest thing I could say is connections through talking things through. Um, I got to a place where I'm able to give that advice of, this is supposed to be a growing process. You're supposed to be, making mistakes, and things are supposed to be as they are. And you decide if you choose that, like it is your choice. And I think anytime that school starts to feel really crazy and all that, I 100% will still be like, that back door looks real comfortable. Like it's glowing at me right now. But I tell myself, like, no one's making you do it. This is your choice and your decision. And what does it want to do that you want to do? I literally had classes sometimes that I would tell myself, you decide if you're showing up today. Like no one else is deciding for you. Are you showing up? So I think that the biggest mental health advice I can always give, like every single time, is please be honest with yourself. Sit with yourself, and if you can't figure it out, talk it through. I am a huge advocate for therapy. Like I think everyone should have a therapist. Therapists would be great in medical school, so definitely talking things through. If you're not much of a talker, writing things, like going for the walks. They really encourage that a lot actually at SCNM, like on the breaks and stuff. Hey, go for a walk. But it's such a lonely and an isolating journey if you let it be. And I think that you should just really connect. Even these 2 weeks that I have off, I'm trying to spend all of my time like seeing people who are important to me. Like I have 3 people I think I'm supposed to see today. Like even to do this, I was like driving in Atlanta traffic, like, okay, I'm gonna like make it here and still go out to dinner and like see my family. And definitely you just have to be honest with yourself, and that's hard. And if you don't know how to do it, reach out to people, because someone somewhere, especially at SCNM that has such high quality people, someone's going to be there to help you for sure.
See, I'm like, I'm like beaming. Literally, I said I'm a Care Bear. I need to figure out all the Care Bear names actually, so I can figure out which one I am. But no, like that is so beautiful to hear because, girl, ugh, I can't even like beam it. Like I don't. It's just beautiful to hear because it things are difficult. This is not easy. And the fact that you have kind of made it this far and you are having this thought process, see, even my dogs agree with you and what you're saying. Even my dad's coming in saying, relax, relax, just to remind you of that greatness. Um, so the fact that you are at this point, the fact that you feel this way, the fact that, you're honest with your feelings, you're honest with your thought processes, that is just so great to hear. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, so let's end this on a good note. What is your just final thoughts of the school that you've attended and just you? Who is Morgan now? Because I know that a quarter can change people.
Yeah, for sure. SCNM, I love it. I think it's great school. The values just really in line with a high quality person. And I think that this school is really great for development and pushing through your boundaries. And I can say that because who Morgan is now. Like after one quarter, I really feel myself challenged. I really feel myself still scared, but ready to take on this challenge because I know that what I'm going for is something good. And yeah, I just think I can say be prepared to fail, be prepared for it to not look perfect, for it to not go good. But I honestly think that you wouldn't be as good of a doctor if it did. Like you can't relate to everyone if everything was just shiny and nice. And yeah, I highly recommend this. If it feels right, it is a phenomenal investment in yourself and your community, for sure. Yeah.
See, no, that I can't even top that. That's so great. Thank you so much, Morgan,
Thank
for
you so
agreeing
much.
to do this and um, just putting your truth out there, because that's not easy for everyone. But for you to be, who you are now, and yes, we've had conversations, and I've seen you just have this metamorphosis, which is great. Now the goal now is just to keep building from that. And don't get me wrong, you will have those moments where you feel like you got it and then you feel like you don't got it. But that's all part of the growth. And I feel that you kind of feel that already. And you're moving to Arizona. Congratulations. Um, the sunshine does wonders for people.
Get that vitamin D. I learned about that.
See, see. Now I may not know. Oh, I do know that it is a fat soluble vitamin. I know. Oh, yeah. There you go. A deck. A deck. I made that into mnemonic. A
Mhm.
deck. That those are all the fat soluble vitamins. That's all you'll get out of me. Um. Listen, I'm on break. Like I'm not. I no vitamin D
They just
does
stopped
something.
though. They're still emailing us. I was like, hold on, I'm supposed to be forgetting about you guys.
Every time I get an email, I get like a little anxiety because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's school related. What did I do? Did I forget something? Did I forget to do something? Like every time it comes in, and then I read it, it's like, oh, that's just info. That's nothing. It's not an action item. Uh, but no, thank you so much for agreeing to do this and to sit down with me, and I really do appreciate it. So I don't have anything else to say because you've done a very good job in summing it up. I
Oh,
wish you all the best.
thank
You know how to contact me. You know how to find me. Um, so
you.
let's end this on a good note, ladies and gentlemen, the world out there, everyone. Thank you so much for, hey, clicking on this video, watching this video. Morgan, and I'm gonna make sure I put her information because she didn't say that I could, but I'm just gonna assume
Definitely out any questions
that
that
you all can find her on social media so that you can follow her journey and be in contact with her because listen, we're a family. You success is never achieved alone, and you're always going to need someone that you can call on or contact, just to kind of keep you in check and see if your thought processes are good or in line with what it is you're trying to achieve. All right, so I want to thank you again. I know I've said that several times in this video, but that's who I am. But I really want to thank you for taking the time out to sit with me and to talk with me about just the student perspective because that's something that we don't talk about a lot as medical students, no matter what school you're in, or what dimension of allopathic, osteopathic, whatever the case may be, we don't talk from the student perspective. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
no, thank you. Honestly, like, thank you for trusting me with it. It means so much that you would actually believe in me to do this and be here. I was so nervous, but the fact that you really thought of me, it really means a lot to me.
No, you did an awesome job. I mean, you really did. I really had no clue how this was gonna go. This was like, but no, you were the first person that I thought about when I wanted to have a series out in the world where we talk to students, current students, so that you can give a real world response to just what you're going through. And so people can can humanize you. A lot of people think that when you think of a medical student, that they're just all the way up here, and we don't have emotions like other people, but we do. And sometimes they're worse
Yeah.
just because of all just because of the environment. But you were the first person that came to mind when I started this series, because I wanted, we've had conversations before, but even during orientation, I think we met during orientation, and I was like, I like this vibe. I like what I'm feeling here. And I was like, okay, so I just stored it in the back of my mind. And then when I came up with this idea for the series, I'm like, okay, who can I talk to? Like, I don't think people want to hear me talk about SCNM. I mean, I want to talk to some.
I do. I listen to you all the time.
But I was like, okay, who can I talk to that's like fresh? Like they've, just finished their first quarter and can kind of give a real world response to everything. And then you popped in my head, and I was like, she's the perfect person, because I knew that you had, when we were having conversations, I was like, wow, she's really, other people can be very um, kind of scattered in their emotions, or in, not to say that this is bad, but you don't really have a good grounding in yourself to be okay with saying, I didn't do well, or be okay with saying, I'm not doing well, or be okay with, you know, asking a question that you may kind of, tinge at your pride a little bit, because you don't want people to know you don't know something. And so in our conversations, you were very raw with it and very vulnerable with it, to say, hey, this is what I feel. And is this okay? Or is this normal? And to have someone come out the gate saying that, I'm like, yes, that is the type of person that, people need to hear. I don't need to hear from someone who's doing great just coasting through. I want people to hear from people like me, who it was rough. It was tough. It was a yeah, it was a mental struggle as well as a physical struggle, and you want to hear from people who are trying to work to balance it all. And from our conversation today, girl, you are doing the best that I see. And I think that's great. And it's not to get, I'm not trying to like pump you up too much,
Right. Keep
but
me on.
trying to keep you just right here. But just enough to let you know that when you start questioning yourself or doubting yourself, or questioning whether you should even be here, the fact I want to remind you that your vulnerability is going to be your saving grace. Your vulnerability is going to be your savior, because being vulnerable allows for you to be real with yourself and other people. And the people who appreciate it, the people who will value it, the people who need to be around you will feed off of that, and they're going to encourage that from you, and you're going to find that people around you are going to want to be vulnerable with you, because there's this level of trust that you invoke when we're having conversations. And I noticed it. um, so I think that is a very good quality to have, especially with you, in school, to become a healer, to become a helper for other people. So definitely do not lose that. Don't think that who you are needs to be changed or augmented. By you being in this new environment, the only thing that's going to change, it's really not going to change. It's going to elevate. It's going to adjust to its new environment. But don't ever think that you need to let go of a piece of you in order to make space for something else, because the whole goal is that other people are going to make space for you. The space itself will kind of acquiesce around you. So that's my heartfelt soapbox. um
Thank you.
2 cents. Well, I will say that was all of my um kind of thought process, and what I was getting from you in our conversations. And I don't think I ever like told you that, but I guess this is an opportunity for me to tell you that. Uh, but no, I really don't lose it. Don't lose it. Now, granted, the world and the program will try to take it from you.
Mhm.
It will. And I'm telling you that from experience. It will try to take it from you. People around you will try to take it from you. Your classes and the demand and the rigor will try to take that vulnerability from you and make you think that it's a curse. When in actuality, it's a gift. It's just that majority of the time it doesn't feel like it. Majority of the time you feel like you're in your feelings. Majority of the time you're going to feel like, oh, I'm too emotional.
Yes.
Like everybody else is feeling okay with this, and I'm like an emotional wreck. Like I'm just feeling the whole world. So I just say that to kind of just be real with you and let you know what I was thinking and how I view you thus far. Uh, I said thus far like you're gonna turn out bad, but I meant like as of this point, we've known each other for 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
I really need to know what a quarter is. I feel like I've said this so many times.
It's
It's 4 months. 3
sure.
months?
I think yeah,
3
3 months.
months?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just showed my math skills.
Because each month is 4 weeks, 4, 8, 12. So just under 3 months.
Yeah. You're saying that because you're like fresh out of school, like a
Yeah,
year.
I'm still young,
Yeah.
like so,
No. No. My memory's not there anymore. I just show up for class. So,
right.
uh, but no, again, thank you so much for this. Keep doing you, keep shining. Golly gee, I need to figure out what the Care Bear names are.
You turned
Uh,
into a Care Bear now. Honestly, like I was sitting here like, oh my god, the warmth in my heart. I don't think I can handle it.
yeah, like, but no, again, thank you so much for doing this, and I will continue to be in touch. Enjoy your break.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy your break. Give yourself like 2, 3 days before classes start to like get in the mindset again.
Yeah, I'm
Cause
already
it'll
like
just
it pulled up, like ready to preview. Honestly.
good, good, good. Like you're ahead of me. You're ahead of me, but no, that's good because you will definitely, it'll definitely help you. It's
Mhm,
once you start to get in that mindset again and
mhm.
figuring out all of these different things you need to do and meal prep. People
Yeah,
don't talk about it enough.
please
Meal
do.
prep.
Girl, I got so unhealthy. Not gonna cap.
Listen, I enjoyed my COVID.
Oh,
I
right.
enjoyed my quarantine.
Yeah.
Okay? I enjoyed it.
So
And
clutch.
I'm at home with family. I have not cooked for 8 months.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
I'm actually like the chef at my house, so like I
Oh,
cook
see,
so much.
they get on me. Now, I can cook. Don't get me wrong now. I could throw down when I need to.
Yeah,
My issue is the fact that I don't have to.
yeah.
So when I go upstairs, I'm like, oh, somebody cook food? Okay, that's dinner.
Right.
So I just mooch off of whoever is whoever cooks something. It's like, is that my words are? Is that community?
Ooh, I like that. I
Yeah,
like
that's all I asked. Is that community? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. So I was like, okay, great. And if it's not community, then I gotta figure out what to do. So my gosh. But anyway, enjoy your break.
mhm,
Uh, Stay in touch.
for sure.
Uh, yeah.
I
I
look
never
forward
know how to end
to
these things.
it. Well, until next time.
Until next time, that's all, folks.
Thank you.
Bye.